am Le from Vietnam. Today I'd like to focus on the topic of rapid chess. In my opinion, rapid lists are becoming more and more common, lots of tournaments nowadays. So you may wonder, do I need special strategies for rapid chess? Do I train the same way as in classical? What do I need to do to succeed in rapid chess? If you have those questions, I'm hoping that I can provide my perspective, my answers to you. So in this game, I have white pieces against Grandmaster Jan-Krzystof Duda. This is the first game of our match in the Oslo Esports Cup in April 2022. So I started with d4. Duda chose the Grunfeld. So I tried to play this line with bishop e2. Of course, Black has many options here, and in this first game, he went with the knight d6 line. So before the game, I knew that Duda is a very exciting player. He always looks for complicated positions. He wants to play for a win. So I kind of expect him to go for some risky lines. I had an idea in this line, and I wanted to test him in this line. The idea of f4 is to control the e5 square and not to allow Black to break in the center too easily. Of course, the drawback of a move like f4 is that white weakens his king side a little bit, and also if Black can somehow open up the long diagonal, then the white pieces are not good. So he went with this line c5, which is a pawn sacrifice, temporary sacrifice. But after 97, e4, he got back on b2. So this is all well known. It has been played before, and here was my novelty with h4. It's not a huge novelty, but it is a fresh idea. I had this move prepared several years ago, never got to use it. And for this game, I decided, okay, maybe I can use it. The idea of h4 is very direct. I want to play h5, open up the king side, and potentially check my team. So clearly, Black has to castle at some point. Otherwise, he doesn't have e5. He doesn't have any clear way to attack. But a move like castling here would be very risky because after h5, for example, e5, I can go f6, bishop h8, and then f5. And this is a very good pawn sacrifice. It keeps the center closed, keeps this bishop passive. And the point is, of course, Black cannot take on f5 due to several moves here, but the strongest is probably rook to h5. So attack the pawn on f5, and if the pawn takes on e4, then rook g4 is brutal, deadly for Black. So also here, white has the threat of rook g5. So castling is not great for Black. If Black goes a move like h5, then the drawback is Black give white this g5 square, so white can go bishop c4 and try to put a knight on g5. Can be this knight, or can also be this knight. And white has a great position here. So in rapid chess, I think the importance of novelties like this is increased. You don't need a super well-analyzed novelty, but you need those little ideas that throw your opponent off balance early on and make them think. So in this game, I managed to come up with exactly that idea to make him think early on, get some time advantage on the clock, and also get a playable position. So that's what you should aim for. So after h4, my opponent went with knight to f6, which is the best move for Black. Now, Black is challenging the white knight on e4, and the white knight should not retreat or move anywhere because if I go knight g5, he can just go f6. So I have to take on f6, ef, it's a logical move. Black decides bishop takes f6, but that's another story. For example, bishop f6, I can go h5, and knight c6, for example, and bishop c4. And the position is still around equal, but white has the initiative. So in the game, he took with e takes f6, and then I continue with h5, which is a good move, castle. And here, I did not play the best move. So what I should have done here for white is to play h6, forcing the bishop back to h8, and then developing with bishop c4. And the point of h6 is to force the Black bishop to a worse square. So if this bishop ever wants to come out, Black has to play f5. But a move like f5 weakens the e5 and the g5 square. So for instance, if f5 here, white can go knight f3, followed by knight g5, and f7 is very weak. So without f5, Black is basically playing a piece down. So Black can play a move like queen e7, attacking c5. White doesn't have to defend c5 at this point. White can just go knight e2. The idea is bishop before after queen c5, and this is winning for white. But of course, this is still a very complicated position with knight c6, queen c1, and so on. And basically, the position is very complicated. What I did in the game was worse because after I played knight f3, he went through e8, and now f6 is not good for white because now Black has this square on f8 for the bishop, and now my pawn on c5 would be in trouble. So you have to think about when to push your pawn. Sometimes the move order really matters, and having an h pawn, people like to call it Henry the h pawn nowadays, and sometimes this h4, h5 can be associated with lila and alpha zeros. But an early attack with an h on a pawn can be very annoying for the opponent, especially early on in the game. So after e8 here, I realized that I cannot play f6 anymore, so I continue with normal development, bishop c4. Black also continued with normal development, knight c6, and I did not want to castle because if I castle, he can go bishop g4 maybe, and my rook on f1 is not great. I would prefer to keep the rook on h1, so in some cases I might try to open the h5. So I went king f2 just to connect rooks and getting ready, defending e3. Sometimes I can think about queen g1, queen h2 even. Duda continued with queen e7, very natural move, attacking c5. I had to defend the pawn with rook b5. And now the position is very complicated. Black should not be worse at all. Black's only issue is this bishop. If somehow black can manage to develop the bishop, get the rook out, then black should be better. But right now, the bishop cannot move because of queen d3, and d7 is weak, f7 is also weak. So black has other options here. For example, g5 is very interesting, trying to eliminate white's option of h6 and also potentially playing for g4. My opponent, instead of g5, he went for knight d8, which is perhaps a small inaccuracy. So obviously he wants bishop e6, or bishop e7, bishop c6, and he wanted to proactively defend the d7 pawn. So I have to say, in this game, I was always ahead of time, mainly because of the surprise effect in the opening when I played this h4 idea. So that really helped with my confidence and also the practical aspect of the game. So I decided just to keep the game going, keep some complications. In time trouble, everyone tends to make some mistakes. So I trade on g6. This is really nothing special. It's just that when you don't know what to do, just make sensible move. Centralize all the pieces, preparing for an attack. Make sure you don't have any hanging pieces and so on. So he went for bishop here. I had to go back to b3. Now black would have taken the pawn on c5. Then I would go queen c2, threatening bishop f7, and then black has to respond with bishop e6. I saw this during the game. I thought I could take rook b7, and perhaps I'm not worse. Black can go rook a8, then I go rook c1. Position is still complicated, but I thought probably black has to be a little bit more careful. So he did not want to take that c5 pawn, obviously. He went for rook to c8. Another very natural move, centralizing rook, putting pressure on c5. So I went with bishop b4. Also, maybe not the best way to play, but I thought it was natural to protect the c5 pawn. Also now my rook protects e3, so I'm not too worried about his attack. Now, having said that, black has this option with bishop a4 to win an exchange. And I was not too happy with my position here, but I thought, okay, if he has to give up this bishop for my rook, probably I have compensation because f7 is always a weakness, and potentially I can also try to bring my knight to d6 with knight b5. If he takes b3, I take with queen, and the knight is coming here. Sometimes I have threats like c6. So I think white is probably okay here. In the game, he played this move, knight to c6. Still an okay move for black. But things were getting more intense here, very complicated after bishop a3, rook c d8, probably already a small, probably a significant inaccuracy. Black should have played a move like queen to e4. Again, when you don't know what to do, usually those centralizing moves, putting pressure on the opponent's pieces are good ideas. So a move like queen e4 is useful for black because now black wants knight takes d4, or maybe sometimes black can try to play f5 and free this bishop, looking at the d4 square. So queen e4 would have led to a very complicated position. Even after rook cd8, I went queen d1, and perhaps this was where my opponent underestimated my attack. So here, looking at this position, we should see that all the white pieces are way more active than black pieces. First of all, white is threatening queen takes g6, very dangerous threat because of the queen. Black cannot take the queen. So a move like f5 also not working because the knight can return to f3, and then the knight can jump to g5 to attack f7. Also bishop b2 is a big threat also, and d7 is always hanging. So this wasn't working for black. In the game, he took on d4, and of course, if I play ed without thinking, I would have lost this game because of either f5 or bishop f5, and black would be doing great here. Suddenly, the bishop is open, d4 is weak, all black pieces are coming out, and white is just lost here. Luckily, I saw this idea before I took on d4, and I saw that I did not have to take on d4. I had a very strong intermezzo move, which is c6, opening up the diagonal to attack the black queen. So the problem for black here is now his queen doesn't have too many squares to go. If he goes queen to e4, then I can take d7, and I can just win a piece here. Actually, not right away, but I should go rook d3. And eventually I'll win this knight. So after 6, he took my rook on b3, and I took his queen. He went to takes, cd, d2, and I had to foresee this whole idea in advance, because if I don't have this move now, I would not be winning at all. If I just move the queen somewhere, then he just take on d7, and I wouldn't be winning. But I have a very strong move, queen takes g6, and the whole point of this variation is, if black takes on c4, then I have queen h7 check, king f8, and now queen h8. This is a queen sacrifice. Take, king g7 is forced, and now rook takes d8. And black has no way to prevent rook to g8. So if he wants to prevent my pawn from winning, he has to take the pawn d7, and this is losing for black. Otherwise, I would just move the rook to g8 and move the pawn. So after take g6, he had to go king f8, and then I went back to c2, and eventually I won this game because the pawn on g6 is a very, very important pawn. Without pawn on g6, black's whole king side falls apart. With the pawn on g6, black can secure the knight on f5, sorry, on e4, with the move f5, and black would be okay. But without that pawn, this is just lost for black. And this is the last trick. If I play rook takes d6, it looks like a good move because rook c2, rook e8 checkmate. Actually, that is a very bad move because of rook e3, and black will survive. But I just had to play queen a4, and eventually I won this game. So this is an example of the importance of novelties in the opening. Here we're not talking about big novelties, just small practical ideas that can surprise the opponent and give you time advantage. psychological advantage. Those are usually very valuable in rapid chess.
Fucking queen. Queen C2.
Nope.